Hello, everybody. Welcome to Orgasmica, the podcast where we talk all about sexuality, sensuality, healing, and all things without taboos or restrictions. And I have a very special guest today with me. Her name is Jordana. I like to say your name in with a Spanish accent, with Jordana.
Oh,
Uh,
you make my heart
she
flutter
is.
when you say my name.
Oh my God, I love saying it like that. She's just such an amazing human, badass person, healer, coach, all the things. And we're going to talk about all of the things because this is a woman that I met recently, not too long ago. We were introduced to each other. And then I experienced her healing magic through sound balls. Honestly, and I will tell you guys this honestly, I never lie on this podcast or I try not to lie ever, but literally one of the most deep sound healings that I've ever had in my life. And they're very potent. They're very powerful. And your medicine is very powerful. And we live in LA where there's, sound healing. You throw a rope and there's sound healing. And so I've taken several and many, and yours has definitely been one of the ones that have taken me in such a deep state. And so it's an honor to have you here at the podcast. So thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm such a huge fan of you and your magic in the world, which is so multifaceted. I know that your audience probably knows that already, but I'm a huge fan of you. So thank you for having me and thank you for trusting me in the sea of Los Angeles healers to come into my sound studio and to experience Suka sound and the sounds from the Himalayas. It's a blessing and an honor.
Oh, yes. Literally got chills just like the way you say Suka sounds from Himalayas. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get into this? And you do it in such a pure and amazing way. And the sound balls have such and the way you also talk about them and take care of them, and the way this deep sounds. I want to start too because many people, I'm assuming that everybody knows what sound healing is. We live in LA. Everybody kind of knows. But I don't want to assume that everybody that listens to this knows what sound healing is. So let's start with that. What is sound healing?
Yeah, what a great question. So, sound healing is healing that happens in the body and the mind as stimulated by sound. That's in its simplest form that I can say in this moment. And what we're talking about when we're saying sound healing is really using music and using specific instruments that are made for inducing states of calm, because when the mind, body, the nervous system is in a state of rest, then we can heal. If we're in our fight flight mode, then there's no healing that can happen because we're ready to run, we're ready to fight. So we often get stuck in that part of our nervous system because we're faced with, everyday triggers and anxieties, and then we don't shake it off, or we don't do the things that help us, support us to shift. And so something like a sound healing can do that. These sounds can get us into this space where we can heal.
I love that. And there's different types of sound healing, like you said, like music, and I mean, music on its own is very healing. I think we all use it in different types of ways. We all have
Yeah.
music connected in our lives in a different types of ways. And music, we know that music can induce either a state of happiness or a state of sadness or a state, it can it has such a deep attachment into our bodies and to our souls,
Yeah.
music as a way of communicating. But this sound healing that you got into and these specific balls, what do they do? How did you get into it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like sound and music, it sets the mood, right? Like, how do I want to feel? And I know that we like to feel on this podcast, right?
Yes, we do.
So, yes, we do. Let's feel it all. And really, like, when we go into these states of meditation that these sound bowls can support us in, then we're more available to feel outside of the space of a sound healing or sound bath. Anyhow, I got into it because I was trying things out. I was a practitioner of yoga. I was a yoga teacher even the first time I went to a sound bath, and I thought, this is an amazing way to meditate, with this music that just got me so deep into these, other states. Got into it, I think it was about 10 years ago. There weren't so many sound baths anymore. It was a really like special to find one. And so I would seek them out everywhere. I got to go to some of the like most famous places, like the Integratron in Joshua Tree. I went there many
I love
times.
that.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
do the sound healing in their space. That it's this hexagonal space, for those people who don't know, where the sound bounces off the walls, and it's apparently a place where aliens landed.
Yeah, I've heard many stories about that place.
Yeah. I went to Bali and was in the monkey forest and had sound healing. And I'm just trying to think of all of, like, probably in Mexico also sound healings. And it wasn't until I experienced a sound healing in Nepal that I felt like I really experienced the space. The space, the je ne sais quoi space, if we can speak French for a moment, of limitlessness. And I felt in that session. And by the way, this session was in Pokhara, which is a mountain town by the Annapurna region in Nepal. And it was up like 3 flights of stairs that were uneven and squeaky. And this small studio space that was probably had mold. I don't know. It was just kind of like damp in there. You could hear the restaurant next door through the walls, and they were singing like 90s cover songs. And this is like the place where I go to a sound healing because it said free sound bath. And I thought, I was searching
Yeah.
Nepal for a certain kind of singing bowl that, long story, but I was working in integrative medicine, and this doctor was talking about frequencies for healing, and he said that you can find these in Nepal, and I was going to Nepal, so I decided to look throughout the whole country to find what he was talking
Level.
about. Yeah, and so I was not afraid to go up squeaky, damp steps in a weird looking building. I was just, searching for this bowl, and why not try a free sound bath? But I was very skeptical, given that I could hear Pearl Jam through the walls, and
Right. You're like, okay, I'm
right,
gonna
like,
focus.
how am I supposed to commune with God here?
Yes. With Pearl Jam in the
And something really profound happened in that session. So I dropped everything that I came in with, because what I felt was beyond what I can even ascertain with words. It was like the energy centers of my body leapt up out of my body, and it was like they were cleaned by the sound. And then they came back and landed back inside of me, and I landed back in my body. And when I opened my eyes, all this time, 40 minutes had gone by, and I felt so rested and so well and so grateful. And I knew something special had happened, and everything else, the Pearl Jam and cover songs, it all melted away. And it was still there, right? It was all still there, but there were these two realities existing at the same time. And I learned then that the music happening in the restaurant next door and the deep healing that was happening in that damp studio, like, no one moment was more sacred than the other. It's just like, where am I now? And
Right.
a lot began to unfold. So that was the moment that things changed for me, and that man who ran that sound bath became my teacher, my best friend. I now have his studio in my studio here in Santa Monica, and I work with his family to import these bowls anywhere in the world, so that people can get these real, authentic sounds of the Himalayas. Because what I was experiencing were these bowls that were perfectly tuned to the energy centers in our body, that had gone through a very thorough, like, quality assurance process to be sure that the way in which that they were made resonated with each of these energy centers, and that the vibration was big. And so
Right.
that's what's really special about these bowls, and also the way in which I trained and now get to train others. in this modality is to work with those vibrations and to work with energy so that we can transmit healing through this channel.
Yeah, through the sounds, like you were saying. And it's like, for me, it was very interesting to see the bowls at your house, because you were explaining to me, like everything you're explaining, like, oh, these are is perfectly tuned. And when we're not experts in a space, or we don't know much of a space, I just thought all sound bowls are the same. You know what I mean? But they're not, obviously, clearly curated, and where they come from. And I also think that the medicine they are created with also has a vibration, right? It's like, it's not just the vibration that the bowl is emitting to us as a sound, but it is also the intention that people put into the making of one thing. And that is with like everything, with art, with whatever, right? I just feel that the intention and the heart, where it's created, it would be different than it's created on Amazon, with like
Absolutely.
100 million others, that they're just really coming out of the space from what kind of energy do you also want just by holding a piece of something, and on its own, like it could be like a microphone or thing or a space, and I just feel like that is taking a little bit of a tangent, but it's like the demise of a lot of what we're seeing right now in a global world, like especially with the film industry. It's like sort of kind of falling apart because people took like just the money out of it, but the heart, they took it out, and they stopped trusting the art. The purpose of the art is to connect people with their heart, and so when you curate these beautiful pieces, and when and source them in places that it's coming from a sacred space, I could definitely feel the difference just by walking into your space, honestly, which of course has to do with you and how you curate your own space. But I can tell that these pieces are very special. And when you said about limitless, I love that. I love that world. I just feel like when we are truly connected into that space of meditation, right? We do feel time, place, and all of that doesn't exist. But I really want to know what limitless is to you. What is your experience of limitless?
It's almost that. When you ask the question, I want to take this long breath. And that's what I just did. I just took this long breath and sighed out my mouth. And that's the feeling that even the word evokes within me, is the space to really just be okay. Be okay. Be okay in that exhale, that sigh. I mean, there's nothing wrong when I sigh. In fact, everything is right. It's just,
Yeah.
it's bringing me into presence and into a relaxed presence where I can really be with whatever's here.
That is beautiful. That's amazing. I love that. I literally have chills in my legs. I don't know why in my legs, but in my legs. I mean, chills in my legs. Um, and then you went to, I mean, you are also very multifaceted. A woman. I mean, you started with yoga. You then also do coaching, and you help people in life to focus their dreams and their intentions. And then you also connect all of it into adventure, and do retreats in an adventure way. There's different types of retreats that people do, right? Some retreats, it's like you go to a space and you just relax and stay there and don't move. But your retreats are very special. And I know from what you just said how much of a connection you have with Nepal. But you seem you've been there many, many times. What is it about Nepal, and that like brings you back, that connects you to that place, and the way that you are connected? And why did you want to bring people along into that journey?
Yeah, cool. Great question. Well, I must have some must have some karma in Nepal for sure. I first went to Nepal because my best friend, back in 2015, she and I were talking about traveling together, and she was the most well-traveled person that I knew at the time. And I was working long out. I was an executive producer, and I was working so much that I had 5 weeks of vacation saved because I hadn't taken vacation in, I think, 4 years at the time.
Yeah.
And so I said, let's travel together. And she said, I'd love to. I said, where's the most beautiful place in the world? And she said, I haven't been there yet, but the most well-traveled person that I know says it's Nepal. And I thought, what? I was like, I think I know where that is. It's like near India, right? And she said, yeah, it's above India, and we can hike in the Himalayas,
Wow.
which was just beyond for me. And so anyhow, we planned to do that in April of 2015. I never made it to Nepal that year because I was going a few days later than she was, my friend Stephanie. And there was a terrible earthquake that happened, and she was there. It was on April 26th.
Yes. Oh my God. Is that
Yeah,
the documentary that I saw about the people, maybe?
yeah,
Yeah, the people
yeah,
that were like walking in there and the also the Everest, like how the yes. Oh my
yeah.
God, she was there in that time. Wow.
She was there. Luckily, she was in Kathmandu, and she was with our friend Birendra, and he took great care of her. But this was like this moment where something so tragic happened, and I was supposed to be there, but I wasn't there, and I felt that part of me was there, and became something that I had to get to Nepal. I just had to, like, that had to become part of my journey. And it didn't until I think it was 2.5 years later. I remained friends with Birendra, who was the trekking guide for Stephanie and was supposed to be the trekking guide for me. And he started, rebuilding homes with his own two hands, and we were helping him raise money to do so. I thought, this is such a great man. I want to just meet him and go hiking with him. And then I thought, you know what, maybe I'm going to bring a group there. Maybe that would be, had started running retreats at this point in time. I had left my job as an executive producer, and I had run some retreats in Joshua Tree. And I thought, what if the first time I go to Nepal, I bring a few
Wow.
people, a few trusted friends with me, and we hike Annapurna together. And I think I had 5 people that year who trusted me enough. And we did a beautiful trek. It was called Trekking and Transformation. It just went so wonderfully, and I deeply connected. Birendra, who I still am so connected to him and his family. That was a few weeks after that I met my teacher for the singing bowls. I'm connected with his family. And so it's this special place where, and there's the beauty of the mountains and the Himalayas, which is just beyond what I can, like, it's so beyond, I mean, it's so majestic. And the metaphor as well of hiking for days just to get to a base camp, hiking for days just to get to the beginning, right? Like, right. Especially
Yeah,
as an
yeah.
overachiever. I don't recovering overachiever. I need to learn. And in my coaching, we talk about peak performance, and peak performance is to be able to stand at the base of a mountain, see the peak, and say, beautiful. I can look at it, I can take it in, I can appreciate it from here. And then also just the rich culture of Nepal, of the Nepali people, and Hindu culture. 80% of the country is Hindu, and then 20% of the country is Buddhist. And I spent quite a bit of time studying in Buddhist monasteries there, meditation and the teachings of Buddha. And that's really enriched my life and supported me in my personal life and in my coaching work. And I'm really grateful and feel connected to the people that I've gotten to like share the mountains with, and also to learn from. And so I keep going back because it means a lot to me to keep supporting these places. I know that, like, the presence of Westerners, especially conscious Westerners, really makes a difference for them and their businesses, their lives, and that feels, I mean, it feels really good, but also, like, we live longer when we have deep relationships. I think that
Yeah.
that's the key to living, is to have deep roots. And so I like to do that. And Nepal is one of those places where I'm growing my roots and bringing other people there for transformation, because it's a beautiful place to experience the Himalayas And I'll be honest with you, to experience chaos, because that country also
Mhm.
thrives in chaos.
Thrives in chaos. And like,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was going to ask you. I was like, so many people go to India, right? Or at least Western people go to India and this like search of peace, inner peace and inner like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just go in ashram and meditate and just
Yeah.
be away from society and leaving the craziness that is my life and da, da, da. They don't understand that part of the culture of India, right? It's absolute chaos.
Hmm.
And it thrives in a sense with the chaos of like how
Hmm.
people drive, like the people on the street, the yelling, the sounds, the noises, the foods, the like all of that stuff like that, which I connect with in a certain way because Mexico City is very that, it's certain parts of
Yeah.
Mexico City is just noisy, hectic, lots of food, lots of people screaming, lots of people doing, lots of, it's just a hectic thing. And how do you, in your mind and in your transformations there, like all the transformations that you've had there and that connections with, how do you like just unite those two things together?
First of all, I'm giggling because I was one of those Westerners who went to India and thought I'm going to go meditate on an ashram.
I
Wow.
love that.
Do I wish that I had a guide like me back then?
Right.
That's
Right.
yeah, I had a very hard landing, and it was like I had 48 hours of panic attacks basically, because
Wow.
what I saw online was not what I got,
No,
and
it was very,
and I
I'm
had
assuming it was very shocking too.
shocking, shocking. I mean, and I was so isolated. It was shocking. I was isolated. I was disconnected. My phone didn't work. It was
Oh,
hot. There was no retreat. So that was tough and grew me a lot. And I wish that on no one. I wish
mm-hmm.
that on no one, which is why it's really a benefit to be able to go to one of these countries with proper support, because then you
Yeah.
can experience the chaos in in a dosed way,
Yes.
versus like I was completely overwhelmed. It's like I woke up in the middle of the night afraid of the dark. It's like
Yeah.
because I
Right.
realized, oh my God, where am I? Right, this terrible feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But so if we can just take in enough of it, right, just get the dose that we need,
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
that possibility of what I even described earlier in these cover songs and the beautiful sounds of the bowls, right? That
Mm-hmm.
that both of these are
Mm-hmm.
possible. You take one step and then another. We're constantly balancing between, and walking is a funny thing, balancing between left and right, and like falling
Yeah.
over and catching ourselves and falling over and catching ourselves. I think Jack Kornfield talked about it that way. And with one foot, it's like it could be pain and suffering, and the other it's joy and happiness, and that's life. We're balancing between these two polarities of
Mm-hmm.
pleasure and pain and sadness and happiness, and that's what makes our human experience so rich. And we are very sheltered from it here,
Yeah.
where I can just go
Mm-hmm.
turn on the AC because it's too hot. I
Yeah.
can make myself comfortable. But there, it's not as easy to do that. And we're faced with so much. So if we can get it in the proper dose, it's really a beautiful way to deepen our understanding of life. My understanding of life has been very deepened and given a lot of texture from having these experiences.
Mm-hmm. Texture. I love that. Yeah, and I love what you say about, that dose scales. I understand, like, if we are in a state of fight or flight the whole time, like you said, it's like very hard to actually take in also the beautifulness that can come
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
experiencing a different culture, because there's a part of you that doesn't feel safe because you don't know the language, you're disconnected, you don't know anybody, and so it's like really,
Yeah.
really hard to not fully take in all the beautifulness. And another thing that I love that I want to talk to you about that you just said was the fact of here we are very comfortable. And I talk a lot about how we have just we even more so in is a growing situation that we have no we just cannot be in the uncomfortable for a lot. Like people, like they run away from the uncomfortable, and we have our phones, which are devices that we use as a running away from uncomfortable. Like if I see something and I'm like, oh no, let me just go on my phone. It's like it's all this like avoiding being uncomfortable, which I understand. It's a human, condition is like who wants to be, but then I also understand that because younger generations are getting less of just dealing with the uncomfortableness and just sitting in the uncomfortableness for a second. There's so much medicine that comes from being uncomfortable and being able to handle it. Because then you can have uncomfortable conversations, you can have uncomfortable realizations, you can have uncomfortable and not wanting to immediately run away from them. What is your relationship with, you've done these trips so much. What is your relationship with that uncomfortableness? And then that dichotomy of, right, like living in LA in a very comfortable place, in a really comfortable area, and all those things. But what has uncomfortability teach you?
Ooh, well, lots. And it's like we grow when we're uncomfortable. You don't grow in the comfort zone, you grow in the discomfort zone. However, again, I just want to say how important it is not to be so uncomfortable that you can't breathe.
Yes.
And there's no shame in bridging that gap, because if we
Yes.
aren't like real with ourselves about where I'm at now. Maybe
Hmm.
where I'm at now is I like to drink $20 green smoothies from Erewhon for breakfast. That's
Yes.
fine, you know. Um, what's my bridge, between
Yeah,
that
yeah.
smoothie and the ashram, right? It's like
Right,
maybe it's
right,
not the
right.
ashram. Right? It's
Yeah,
like,
maybe not.
um,
Not India.
it's yeah, or it's like, go with a guide, those kinds of things, so that you can begin to experience the discomfort. Or even just, discomfort is sitting in meditation for 15 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just being with my thoughts. That could actually be, I teach meditation, and a lot of us are uncomfortable for 30 seconds with our thoughts. So that's a practice that we can do right here in the comfort of our AC.
Mm-hmm.
It's like be in your comfortable AC, but be in the discomfort of being in your mind for a moment.
Yep.
There's lots of ways, but yeah, for me, I've been able to, over the last, I don't know how long I've been uncomfortable for, probably my whole life, but really this deep work with discomfort has been maybe the last 10 or 15 years. And I'm able to be in situations that are pretty brutal, that that happen. And often it's like, because I seek things, I seek out adventure and experience. I love having like travel experiences, for example. By the side note, do you know we have peak experiences in our lives, which are these experiences where we basically touch like spirituality. We transcend these transcendent
Mm-hmm.
moments. They're also called peak experiences, and it's been shown that these can happen either, or when they most frequently happen is giving birth,
Mm-hmm.
when we meditate, or when we travel.
I love that.
So yeah, so I like
Wow.
to have those. I haven't given birth
Yeah.
yet, so I'm going for the travel one,
So you're just going for the travel. You're having big
which is
experiences traveling.
I'm
I
going for
love that.
travel,
Yeah.
which can also be really uncomfortable. I recently had a travel experience where, actually, I've had this experience happen multiple times, and I'm thinking about it, where I don't know what this says about me. Maybe I like opt for adventure, but where I was supposed to meet someone somewhere and they
Mm-hmm.
bailed, right?
Mm.
It was like, and I was banking on them being
Being
there
there.
and
Yeah.
having this experience with someone else,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they bailed for one reason or another, and I watched myself have the recently I watched myself have this experience. This last time that it happened, it was actually like very mean. Previously, like it happened and it was just like an accident kind of thing. But this time it happened and it was someone who was actually trying to like punish me, and decided to teach me
A
in
lesson.
I'm going to send you to this country and ditch you.
Wow. Wow.
And this country you've never been to, that you didn't want to go to, that I've coerced you to going to, and then I'm going to
No
leave you
way.
there. So
Yeah.
I landed, and I get this message that's, like, ha ha. And I just thought, oh no. And at the same time, I thought, thank goodness.
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It was both
Blessing.
at the same time, right? I was like,
Mm,
I was heartbroken and I was blessed.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And like reflecting on it now, it feels so good. It feels
mm-hmm,
so good. And going through that and just saying, okay, what do I need to do for myself now?
mm-hmm,
Where do I need to be?
mm-hmm,
And not putting any blame or shame on myself, which is what that
mm-hmm,
person, may have wanted for me.
mm-hmm,
And I knew that that wasn't true. And I got to kind of to move on from that. So it was like that I think is a product of, and that's really vulnerable to share that, by the way, getting ditched in a foreign country.
no, but
But
it is, yeah, what a, yeah.
but yeah, but
It's
it,
a beautiful experience and a traumatic experience all at once. But I think
yeah,
it the way I am perceiving it right this moment when we talk about uncomfortability is that because you have seeked out adventure and you have seeked out and you have resistance to uncomfortability, you can hold two things, painful and beauty, blessed and heartbroken, in one plate. And that, I think that's what the capability of resistance gives us, right? It's not just like, oh, just for the fun of it. Yeah, sometimes we just take adventure for the fun of it, but we can see it then reflected in our reactions,
yeah,
that we get to be uncomfortable and have resistance to the uncomfortableness of feelings, and feeling like I am feeling heartbroken, but also I'm feeling very blessed. I'm feeling also and it can be like feeling very blessed that this person show their true colors to me in this way, and I'm not going to have them in my life anymore, or I'm going to have them in a different way in my life. And also, shit, that really fucking hurt. I'm a human being that has feelings, and you can sit in that space without trying to run away from it. And sometimes running away from it would be backlashing, or would be whatever, is not having that resistance. And so I think thank you for sharing that very vulnerable experience, because I think it showed it exactly what can the resistance of uncomfortableness give us
yeah.
when
And I think also just being comfortable, like there's something to be said about being comfortable within ourselves, which is
Mhm,
life's work. But the more
mhm,
that I can be comfortable in my own skin, in my own heart, in my own soul, that when something really uncomfortable launches itself at me, especially like unexpectedly, that
mhm,
I'm comfortable enough with myself that I'm not blaming or shaming or continuing to hurt myself the way in which this may have intended to or tried to or could have hurt me,
mhm,
that I can be resilient. And it's, yeah, it's really uncomfortable, but I have a resource of comfort inside of me,
mhm,
and
mhm.
that is going to, and that will win, right? When that wins,
Yeah.
then my life becomes even greater and more blessed, and the
Yes.
opportunities that unfold from there are the ones that are aligned for me and better for me, and that,
Mhm.
again, blessings.
Yeah, yeah. Right. And so if I am in an uncomfortable position, or if I'm in an uncomfortable situation, I know that if I don't have my phone, so many people, when, I mean, just when they don't have signal, they lose their fucking mind, because that is how they like deal with their emotional thing, and it's like, oh, but you can also do it within you. We have so many beautiful tools, which is the breath and the movement and sounds, and healers like yourself, that we can use, and at our disposal so much now, that if we're not using them, we are just really just not digging deep into what we can do to just get more in touch within ourselves. And that is one of the most beautiful things I feel like about sound healing, that it connects you to your insides in a way that music it's a tool, right? But what it's doing is connecting you to the inside of yourself, to be like, hi, here you are, right? It's like this moments of really stepping into our the space that is not like who I am in the world, but it is just my essence. Like I guess like that essence self. And I definitely felt that in your session, and it was just beautiful to see how you've taken all this learnings and bringing it to everybody. So thank you so much for that, and keep creating
Yeah.
adventures. And the last question I have for you that I ask all my my guest is, what is an orgasmic life to you?
What is an orgasmic life to me? Yeah, it's one where I choose to enjoy. I choose to enjoy whatever it is that I'm doing. I choose to enjoy it.
Beautiful.
Can I enjoy and that's like really it's like choosing joy. So even, when I'm folding my laundry,
Yeah.
choosing joy in folding my laundry, like this gets to be part of I'm like looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I think that's it. And then yeah, I have like there's so much that I get to look forward to and do. And it's like that's an orgasmic life. That's
Yeah.
an orgasmic life is looking forward to what I've created and to continue to create it and to be grateful for what I have said yes to, and living from that place of joy and being playful.
Amen. Yes, yes, yes. I love it.
Yes. Mm.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. Please let everybody know where they can find you, where they can follow you, where they can see what you're doing, and just keep in touch with you.
Sure. There's a lot of links. Um,
We will link it
to,
on the show notes too. But if you guys
yeah.
are listening in the car, just go to the show notes later and you'll find it. But
Yeah.
if you're listening right now and you wanna just go into your
You,
Instagram,
Yeah,
let her know.
so my sound healing Instagram is brand new. It's Suka Sound. That's Sukha Sound. And I'm sharing a lot of the science behind sound healing, as well as different sounds for healing your various energy centers and educating people about the Himalayan bowls there. And then my personal Instagram is Jordana, Jordana underscore is underscore. And my website is my name, JordanaReim.com, as well as sukasound.com.
Amazing. Go follow everything that she does. You guys, she gives so many beautiful, amazing things. And if you are in the LA area, go to her sound healing. You won't regret it. I promise. And I am so, so happy that I get to connect with you this way. I'm so happy that I get to connect with you in a personal way. Thank you so much for your medicine and for just following that intuition of you to, give this to the world because the world needs it. And I am just so grateful that you just exist in this moment where you can give us your amazing, beautiful medicine. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you for helping us to live more orgasmic lives. That makes the world a better place 1,000 times over.
I love it. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next week with another episode of Orgasmica.